ladies and gentlemen, another one of our old friends, Mr. Frank Voll, founder and chairman of We're Smart World. He's here. We'll take a look at the video. Thank you very much, Frank. Over to you. Eat more plants. Eat more plants. Eat more plants.
So, hello everybody. So you know, the world is changing, and we see it when I started 35 years ago with putting plants in the main role. It was revolution. It was not really normal. What is this crazy guy doing? But today, there is no way back. It's all about plants, and if you're not doing it today, you are losing time. People, 35% of the people today are looking for dishes with or in the main role or 100% pure plant. With We're Smart, we are today seeing that it's a big success. We have now restaurants inside the world in more than 50 countries. And we give them 1 to 5 radishes. And one radish, to explain a little bit, is that you have at least 50% of your dishes are plant, pure plant. So it's important that the next step, and that's what we are doing together with the chefs, going for the next step, 60% 2 radishes, 70% 3 radishes, 4 radishes is 80%, and a 5 radishes restaurant has the possibility to have a menu 100% pure plant. So the people can choose inside of the restaurant that they can eat 100% pure plant. And that's with all other points about sustainability, gray and blue water, about no food waste and so on. It's important to work on. So if you are interested in it, always you can see online on the website. And we have now more than 1,300 restaurants in those countries. This year we have 126 5 radishes in the world, so it's a lot. It's really moving. A lot of chefs are taking the step to 100% pure plant. And I see in some of the countries even, every new fine dining restaurant who is going open, they have a choice of a pure plant menu. We have 25 new 5 radishes restaurants this year, and about more than 200 new restaurants inside of the guide. And why We're Smart is different than the other guides, you know them, Michelin, Gomio, and others. I think that it's important to know that we are a movement. We are not only a guide, we are a movement. We try to work together with the chefs and to push them and to help them to more plant dishes and to make the percentage of pure plant higher. We are transparent. You can see on the website everything what you have to do. So it's important also that when we want to change things, we have to do it together. And you can see, and it's not a chaos. You can perfectly see what I have to do for one radish, what I have to do for a second radish. We have a dual approach. We have the radishes, 1 to 5 radishes, but we have also the top 100 of best vegetable restaurants in the world. The philosophy, think fruit, think vegetable, is the basic of everything. When you create a dish, you start make the choice of the vegetable. And then you will see what is the next step with the 66 techniques to prepare vegetables. And maybe in the last part, you will see, can I put meat or fish with it, or it stays 100% pure plant. That makes a big difference because we don't have all a big team. And in a lot of restaurants, the chef has one guy near him, and they say, yeah, we don't have time to have 2 menus. No, when you create a menu from out the vegetables, and you can put in some of the dishes meat or fish if the client wants it, yeah, you have only one menu, and it's easy for the mise en place. We have the 5 Radishes Chefs Club, and that's something what is fantastic because those chefs, the 5 Radishes chefs, are working together, doing four hands, doing activities to learn from each other from everywhere in the world, and it's a big family. And then we have the untouchables. When you have and we have an untouchable with us, when you are 2 years #1 of the world, automatically the year after you become untouchable. We are also, and that's new, the radish leaf, and that's for hotels, that's for catering companies to help them and to bring them in the movement. They contact us every week and they want to be part of this movement. And so with the radish leaf, we can do this step also. I'm so honored to have with me Emile van der Staak, and he's today's #1 best vegetable chef, best vegetable restaurant of the world. And he came to Singapore to explain his philosophy, to explain about the food forest and about everything what he's doing and why he's the #1. So I invite you to look to video from Emile.
If you look at the world, we're actually in trouble because of the way we eat. Reading about this, gaining more knowledge, really made me think about what can I do as a chef, because food revolves around so many of these great challenges we face that it's actually quite interesting to be a chef in this time and age. My name is Emile van der Staak. We are here today in restaurant De Nieuwe Winkel. We created a restaurant focusing only on plants, so there's no animal protein in our kitchen. 12 years ago we started with the mantra more plants, less animals. So we were not a vegan restaurant when we started. If you walk that path long enough, you end up becoming a plant-based restaurant that we are today. Within the context of top gastronomy, it's quite challenging to get to the same point as we are familiar with. For example, you take a piece of ribeye and you roast it on both sides a couple of minutes. The result is astonishing. You can actually achieve the same with plants, but it takes more time and effort, different techniques making a similar result. But it's possible. Rehydration was one of the first things that we discovered. When you overcook a vegetable and then you dry it, and then you rehydrate it, you get a completely different product. And then you get these chewy results that is quite similar to eating meat. One of the other big elements in our plant-based kitchen is the use of precision fermentation, or fermentation in general, meaning that you use specific bacteria, molds or yeasts to create the complex flavors that you are looking for. The kitchen that we have, we call it botanical gastronomy. Botanical gastronomy is about plants and finding new applications, and it's also finding plants that we are not familiar with that are also edible. When you look at the supermarket shelves year-round, maybe 10 different plants dominate them. There's so much more to discover in the plant kingdom. Meeting a lazy farmer was needed to become the #1 vegetable restaurant in the world. And this lazy farmer was Wouter van Eck, and he's the initiator of the food forest Ketelbroek. A food forest is an innovative way of doing agriculture. It always stays green, even when it's dry. It grows in volume every year without any inputs, and the soil gets more fertile. He did not only look at what grows in the Netherlands, but he also recognized that when you look around the world to places with a similar climate, what grows there probably grows here as well. So you can actually look in Korea, Japan, Chile. So his botanical collection grew to over 450 different edible plants. And I need this collection to create this diverse menu. And then we got silverberries from Siberia, lemons from Mongolia, bamboo, different nuts, shipova pear with the flavor of marzipan. It's like, it's an endless collection. We were in the food forest, nutting the Chinese mahogany, which is a beautiful tree with feathered leaves that have the taste quite similar to onion soup. So while doing it, this amazing aroma occurred. And that raised the question, what if we would create a broth out of the wood of this tree? And so we did. It took us 6 months to figure out time and temperature in relation to each other to get something that's not bitter. And then we ended up with something that had a flavor similar to chicken broth. In gastronomy, we have a model that starts with a main component, some garnishes and sauce, and the main component is usually meat or fish. I think a next step in this evolution would be to create dishes with a completely new approach. Currently on the menu, for example, is our nukazuke, which is a traditional technique of pickling. And when you look at that dish, it is a complete new approach to assembling. That shows that time and effort actually can impress guests as well. We have to recognize that the planet is in crisis, and we have to recognize that many of the challenges we face revolve around food. And we are professionals in the food industry, and we can actually make a difference. And the question is, are you going to cook the next 18th century recipe? Are you going to be famous because of creating the perfect tuna dough rossini? Or are you going to be on the other side, trying to find a way in a more sustainable direction, trying to transform your kitchen from animal protein to a more plant-based approach, and being part of a movement, a transformation for the future? And that's the main question in play here. How big is your ambition? How big is your moral ambition?
Emile van der Staak, 5-register chef and untouchable.
Thank you for having me as an organization to have this talk here today with you. The video has told a lot already, but I want to add a little element to it. Let me look at the next slide. I actually studied to become a civil engineer, to be honest. The green button. And when I was studying, I was doing a side job as a dishwasher. And since then, I skipped my study and decided I want to become a chef. At the age of 21, I started to work in different kitchens, and I was lucky enough to find the right chefs to work for. And eventually, I worked in the most traditional kitchens you can imagine. 3 Michelin stars in Belgium, for example. If Escoffier would have walked in, nobody would have been surprised. It was that traditional. And at the time I was working there, I already started wondering why the things we are doing are so obvious. Like, why are we putting duck liver on the menu as if it's completely normal? If we know that these animals suffer a terrible life in the last 15 days, why do we use a lot of eel when we know it's threatened by extinction? Those were the first simple questions that came to mind, and later on, learning more about it, I realized many of the great challenges we face revolve around food. So the single biggest thing you can do to save the planet is eat far less meat, especially beef. It's that simple. Let me share you a little story. Here on the picture you see the Dolomite Mountains. I was invited for an event around the Green Michelin star, and they invited a lot of chefs, and we had to cook a menu there. And on 2,500 meters altitude, I met with colleagues from all over Europe, some of them with Green Michelin stars. There were some 3 Michelin star chefs, and they were all in the little kitchen of this restaurant. And there was hardly any space. 3 months prior to this event, they asked me, what are you going to cook? So I emailed them a dish that I had never made before. But it was in my head, and I was pretty confident that I would be able to figure out how to make it within 3 or 4 months. So I was on that mountain, I brought everything. I thought, let's make one plate. We're going to make one plate just to be sure. In that very busy kitchen, it was difficult to find even a spoon. And then finally I found a little spot to work. I made one plate. It was a disaster. It didn't work out the way I planned it. I was aiming for a dish based on 2 trees growing literally 40 meters apart. One was the almond tree, growing beautiful almond nuts, and the other one was the Chinese mahogany, where we wanted to make the broth out of the wood. And I wanted to make this really clever package with oxidized leaves of Chinese mahogany, really rich in flavor, going more in the direction of tea. And then we were stuffing it with a cheese. We wanted to make a cheese out of almond milk, and this beautiful package with the broth and the oil. It was a disaster. And on the spot, I decided we're going to do a very simple thing. We're going to put 2 canals next to each other. On the one hand, the young, fresh almond cheese, and on the other hand, the black almonds that have been put in a warming cabinet for 40 days at 60 degrees. And we finish it off with a little bit of the broth that tastes a bit like chicken broth, based on the wood of the Chinese mahogany and some Chinese mahogany oil. This was my solution that on the spot was made. I went outside and we drank coffee all day in the sun. It was beautiful. Most people thought it was the best dish of the night. Not soon after, I decided I put it on a menu. And right at that moment, the inspector of Michelin came to eat. He wrote a little text on the website later. Now consider the combination of a creamy, very refined puree of fresh almonds and a canal of almonds that have been roasted and fermented. A profound oil of Chinese mahogany and a richly reduced jus elevate all the flavors. What originality. This was the starting point, and that's what we got our 2nd Michelin star. The point is, what did happen on that mountain? Was it pure luck? I'm here to debunk luck. At that moment, when I was on that mountain, it was easy to say that I have been working in a kitchen for over 60,000 hours. Standing here in front of you, I realize I'm a junior, but that's another question. But I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm relatively young and most of you have more experience than I have. But in those 60,000 hours, I realized I have learned so much. And after reading the book of Richard Sennett, that is about the craftsman, I realized what happened on that mountain. And Richard Sennett is investigating like how did the craftsman work throughout centuries. He's the history of being a craftsman. And he realized that craftsmen tend to learn by doing. That's what you do in those 60,000 hours. I've been learning while doing. I've been innovating while I was doing it. I've been coming up with new ideas, doing the job. That's what craftsmen do. But the craftsman does more. He does not do the job for the recognition or for the money. He does get pride out of doing the job right. He wants to work with the best produce. He's very much aware of what is needed to get the best result, not just getting the job done. So we are all craftsmen. Most of you have been working in the kitchen longer than I have. And the craftsman is being overlooked in the transition that we need to make as humanity. And like I said, the single biggest thing you can do to save the planet is eat far less meat, especially beef. We as craftsmen can actually make a difference. What I did on that mountain was not pure luck. I could do that because I was aware of all the circumstances. I knew my product. Another thing that defines a craftsman, that he has high ethic. He knows how things come together. He knows the ethical questions are always in play. I thought about that, and then I was considering, like, what if Stradivari, who is famous for building his violins, would have stood in front of the last tree in the world where he could make a violin with? Would he chop the tree down? Stradivari would probably start a reforesting program because he understood that he needed to respect his product to be able to continue his profession. We as chefs have similar challenges on our plates. Let me continue with another dish that has been very important for me, that shows that we can actually innovate as chefs. This is the no chocolate mousse. In the little video, there was a bit about a food forest, about perennial plants. And chestnut is an interesting source of starch. So other than potato or soy or corn, rice or wheat, it's not depleting the soil, it actually increases the fertilization, the fertile of the soil. So eating more chestnuts, you actually eat the carbon into the soil, which is an interesting concept. So by luck, we understood how we could take the cacao beans out of the equation and replace them by chestnuts and getting a similar result. So this is the no chocolate mousse based on chestnut. We were working with koji. I'm going to explain a bit about this dish. Koji is the mold that you let grow on either rice or barley, and then the mold becomes an enzyme on itself. So you can add it to a starchy product, and it starts to break down the starches and create sugars. That's one thing that it can do. So you need it to make your miso or your soy sauce. But the koji itself, when you smell it, it's quite fruity, like even the aroma of peach. So we decided to approach it more like an ingredient. So we started making like koji soup or koji oil, and somebody put it in the oven and roasted it, and it was terrible. It was hard as a rock. You could not eat it. It was very bitter. And for some reason, somebody tried to put some cream, back in the days that we still use dairy, put some cream in with the koji that was roasted, and after half an hour I tasted it, and it gave me the association with chocolate. So this gave us the opportunity to make the no chocolate mousse. This dish is very useful to show that you can actually use perennial plants like chestnut and create these amazing dishes. And this is the kind of innovation that you want, and that makes our profession so interesting. And there's another dish, because I was not here to do a demo, so I brought two pictures. This might resonate with the audience. This is the nut pâté. And because I was trained in those traditional kitchens, I knew exactly what the characteristics are from a proper pâté de foie gras. And I recreated it with a different nuts and some hemp seed. And this is the most copied dish in the Netherlands. So all my colleagues, most of them even the next day, start working on recreating this nut pâté. But it just shows that in top gastronomy, the dishes that we serve should be complex, they should be creative, they should be combined into a menu that is entertaining to eat, but it never says it has to be based on animal protein. So the challenge is, can we base those characteristics of a proper menu on our level? Can we base it on plant protein and plants in general? And my personal conclusion would be yes. And just when I think that the world is changing rapidly and everybody is going to move towards a more plant-forward menu, that's exactly also the moment that I realized that we are the only restaurant in the world holding 5 radishes, 2 Michelin stars, a green Michelin star, and cooking fully plant-based. So there's still a lot to gain. And I just came over to Singapore to share you this story and to ask you, as talented professionals within the field, to use your culinary masterminds and focus on a more plant-forward menu. Because I'm just a civil engineer in a kitchen and I achieved already this. What if you would start with just one ingredient, with just one dish, one plate at a time, changing your menus towards a more plant-forward approach? And that's what was my message for today. And that's why I shared you this story. Thank you for your attention. You want to add something?
Yo, thank you, Emile. So we had made a book together, Radilicious. It's with 25 radishes chefs from out Europe. And but Emile, you are also making a book now for your own.
Yes, this book has been ready for 6 years, almost. It's almost ready for 6 years. Next week it's going to be printed. It's 544 pages. It's going to be 17 by 24 centimeters wide. It's 80 dishes with all the recipes. And I know that some of the colleagues in the Netherlands already blame me for thinking that I am the Messias. They haven't seen the book yet.
Okay, so just to tell you that the We're Smart Green Guide will be launched on 12th of November in some weeks in Valencia this year. So every year we are doing the guide in another country. Maybe one day it will be Singapore also. And we will have already now 300 chefs and journalists coming to Valencia for this big event. So this was our presentation. If you have questions, please shoot.
Don't shoot the messenger.
That's a good one. Please don't shoot me. No questions.
I can get a microphone if you're feeling brave.
There's a question over here.
Hang on.
Over there also.
And I also wanted to state that Frank Voll is way too modest. He used to cook
Mic one.
vegetable dishes over 30 years ago when nobody was thinking about this at all. So just a little hands up for Frank Voll. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Chef, for you, I'm wondering how much of the time in your kitchen is used for research and development in new products versus actual service time, and how you allocate that within your team.
Yeah, I can tell a bit about it. We have an R&D department, so there's a person working with an academic background, Elsa Linde, who studied at 2 universities. Her professor was with us lately, and he said that she graduated with a 10 out of 10, so luckily enough, she's so kind not to give us the feeling that we're dumb. But she works 5 days a week looking for new ways to prepare all these different plants because it takes a lot of time and effort. Every 3 times a year, we change our menu. So we prepare for the upcoming menu in 4 months. So full-time job to prepare for the upcoming menu. And another thing I can maybe share is how the business case works. Because, for example, our chefs, they work 3.5 days. So that's 4 evenings off. And our staff cost is above 45%, 45% more or less. But our food cost, obviously, because we don't use the luxury products, we use animal protein, is below 15. So this could also be an interesting thought. If you're not motivated for saving the planet, you can also be motivated for having a proper business case that is future-proof. So that's also something I wanted to share.
I was hoping Hans wanted a question. He's president of the Netherlands Chefs, but he's volunteered to buy 250 of your books and give them away at the next Congress. Thanks, Hans. He was also disappointed that there was no cooking demo because he's a bit hungry still. He's my official Dutch taster. From Romania. Good on you, Hans. You're good fun, man.
So idea is, I really like your style of cooking. It's really impressive. Just let us know just few of your secrets regarding the replacing of foie gras, because this is really important. I'm a foie gras lover. I know you hate me right now, but that will pass. So tell me, please. Okay, I will take in consideration the nut cream. Okay, to prepare that. Okay, to replace the foie gras. I'm really looking for that way because I have a situation in my house. My wife, she's a sustainable fighter in Romania, and we are fighting also in our house because, okay, let me cook for you some foie gras today. No, some plants, okay, just please help me. I'm not going to psychologist, I'm coming to you. Okay, thank you.
This is marriage counseling one-on-one, Chef, so just in case you were wondering what's going on.
You need the recipe, I hear you. Yeah. But this is also an interesting discussion. It's also about tradition within our field. Should we stick to tradition? Should we be open to innovation? I really thought about what would Escoffier do. He would probably also have his feelings with this new approach. But we all know that Escoffier was also somebody who was able to innovate. He was the one who started proper education. He was the one who introduced us with the brigade system. So he would also be definitely considering this new approach and come up with all these clever solutions. And that's what the craftsman does in general. So let's keep the discussion going.
Last question.
Sorry, last question. As a culinary educator, is there a reference book you would recommend to enhance programs and teach this to students?
that's not per se my field of experience, but at the end you have to inspire people. And so also in education, obviously. And what could definitely help is to share all the information involved. So not only share the nice story of the cows in the field having fun, but also share the story of the industrial scale on which we produce some of the food, so that people can make their own judgment. I think in education this is hugely important, so everybody can come up with his own conclusions, but do it based on the proper information. That would be a starting point.
ChatGPT, Google. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Vol, Chef Emile van der Staak, thank you very much. Chef George, if you could help me on the stage. Got a small little gift for you. Thank you very much. Frank, always good to have you with us. Chef,
you.
excellent information. Thank you so much. I have a green spot for you to stand on, especially for you. Good man.
Green.
George, from our Continental Director, to give you a small token of our appreciation. Thank you so much. Great innovation. I think the comments around what would Escoffier do were very aptly presented.
Thank
He
you.
would innovate and he would try everything. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
Frank Vol and Chef Emile van der Staak, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.